he kind of said something like, you want investors to be ATMs, but they're not. I think the hardest thing about the fundraising process is not letting these little rejections get to you, and don't let them rattle you and shake you off of the core hypotheses that you've spent years validating. And just have an expectation of like, I'm going to be interrupted for the next 4 hours. And that's what I'm here for. And I'll have time to do that stuff later.
This is Raw and Real Entrepreneurship, the show that brings the no-nonsense truth of what is required to start, grow, and scale your business. I am your host, Susan Sly. Well, what is up, Raw and Real entrepreneurs, wherever you are in the world? I hope you're having an amazing day. And prior to starting the show, we were having a conversation, this incredible guest and myself, and we were talking about, are there any topics that are off limits? And the answer is no. And then I said to him, is there anything you want me to ask that you haven't been asked? He's like, no. So who knows what we're going to talk about? You know, on this show, we talk about all things. It could be martinis and donut combos. It could be even in breastfeeding your children. We won't talk about that on this show today while you're raising funds. But what we are going to talk about is the season of no, which is like, I'm so excited about this. So my guest today is the CEO and founder of Fathom.video, which is cool. Go there after the show and go to Fathom.com. It is amazing. I'm excited. I just said to our COO, go and download the free trial. We're going to use it. So this is a free app that records, transcribes, and highlights your calls so you can focus on the conversation instead of taking notes, which is cool. I like taking notes too. So I'm old school, but we all know that. And Fathom was a part of Y Combinator W21 batch and is the only one of 50 Zoom app launch partners and is one of a small handful of companies Zoom has invested in directly via their Zoom apps fund, and which is so cool. So prior to starting Fathom, my guest founded User Voice, which is one of the leading platforms that technology companies from startups to the Fortune 500 use for managing customer feedback. And we're going to talk about customer service today, which I'm also excited about. User Voice was notable for being the company that originally invented the feedback tab shown on the side of millions of websites around the world today. And prior to that, he worked on Kiko, a company in the first batch of Y Combinator with Justin Can and Emma Cheer, who subsequently went on to found Twitch. And I could have many comments about Twitch, but I won't. And he is passionate about designing intuitive productivity tools that delight user experiences. My guest today is the one and only, live from San Francisco, Richard White. So Richard, thanks for being on Raw and Real Entrepreneurship.
Susan, thanks for having me.
Well, Richard, I'm going to jump in. Season of no. So here, Wall Street Journal says 1,500 startups have shuttered their doors. We know that I think it's like 36.4% funding was down in Q1 from Silicon Valley VCs. We had SVB bank stuff this year. You and I were both in a season of raising money, and you said you're calling it the season of no. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, what's the physics term? It's like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. And I think once you get to realize how insane 2021 was, and we started Fathom in 2020, we went through Y Combinator in 2021. We raised money in 2021. It was a good time to raise money, but I had no idea until recently how insane that year was from a financing perspective. And I think once I started wrapping my head around how many egregious kind of indefensible deals were done in that year, you start to realize why the pendulum has swung so hard and so fast back the other direction. And now you've got a lot of investors that are, I mean, and we're just wrapping up around now, but I mean, I talked to a lot of founders that were like, 2 years ago, you would have closed the thing in 2 hours, right? With the metrics you have and stuff like that. But you're just in this environment now where everyone's still kind of like shell shocked and so afraid because of the ridiculous things that a lot of them did in 2021. And so I think, people are looking for a reason to say no, whereas before they were, looking for any reason to say yes. And it kind of speaks to this thing of, think one of my friends, it was actually, well, I won't quote him because maybe he won't want this quote attributed to him, but he kind of said something like, you want investors to be ATMs, but they're not, right? He's like, you want them to just show up and you've got your metrics and you got your thing, you checked all the boxes, and you want that to just be, it's an ATM. Okay, where's my money? But it's not, right? Investors have their own opinions, their own perspectives. They have a lot of, frankly, there's like a lot of like groupthink, right? Like VCs all know each other. And so they very quickly get this like hive mind kind of thing. So when the hive mind is all thinking everything goes up, stonks, GameStop, that sort of thing, good time. And when the hive mind's like, oh, I lost 80% of my net worth last year, the hive mind goes the other direction. So yeah, I've been calling this with other founder friends, the season of no. And I think it resonated with a lot of them because I think everyone's seen that same thing.
I want to borrow that. Thank you. And most of my guests do become good friends, and I'm taking that one. It's
royalty free.
Thank you. I might have a t-shirt made, and it could have multiple meanings. Anyway, the interesting aspect of fundraising in this current climate, I have found there's a lot of interest, great initial conversations, and then next thing. But to your point, there's, for someone who has never raised money before, each one of them have a checklist, and it's like they're looking for that no as opposed to the majority of yeses. So let me ask you this: how long has this fundraise for this particular round you're doing? How long has have you been at it raising for this round?
So we've been in diligence for a bit. So if I think about the pre-diligence part, probably about 8 weeks. So not exceptionally long. But a lot of conversations in those 8 weeks, right? But yeah, you're right. I think the other thing that's interesting that happened is like we've reverted back to the mid-20 teens in terms of availability. Like it used to be you could only raise in certain windows of the year because it's the only time all the partnership wasn't on some vacation in Mykonos. And 2021, early 2022, it's not true. Everyone worked the entire year, was funding deals day after Christmas, if you will. And now that's not the case either. And I think the thing that's interesting when I've talked to some of my VC friends, they still get tons of deal flow, right? So it's like I think that's the thing that I have to remember as an entrepreneur sometimes. Like, I think my thing is unique and special, and look at our metrics and blah, blah. They see so much stuff. So they're like, they find a reason to say no, great, they're just on to the next one, right? And like, with all these, and I think right now the other problem you have is a signal and noise ratio of, there are a lot of things that got funded in 2021 that probably shouldn't have gotten funded, right? Especially at the seed stage. And now they're all running out of money. And so you're also got the signal noise ratio. Like you're there with something maybe compelling that's actually working, but you're surrounded by, you also remember like you're probably one of 8 calls that VC had that day. The other 8 ones were all these things that are floundering and their metrics went up and now they're coming back down. So just the overall vibe, if you will, in the room is like, everything seems like it's crashing. I don't want to catch a falling knife type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think this year will be brutal because of that, right? In our YC batch, there were a lot of things where I was like, how is this a VC fundable company? And, $4 million, there you go, right? So it's like I said, for every crazy boom, there's going to be a crazy bust. And both of those things, like it shouldn't be as bad as it is now, and it shouldn't have been as good as it was back then, but that's human nature.
Yeah, a lot of the founders I'm interviewing right now, we're on episode 311, I think, or 12. I don't know. The team tells me, I don't know the answer, but so many of the founders I'm interviewing now, Richard, all founded their companies during the pandemic, the 2020. And one of the things that I look at is your company, when it becomes a noun, a verb, and an adjective, that's when you've made it. And so we look at Uber, Airbnb, like Instagram, all these companies that were founded during the recession and they survived. I almost feel like VCs right now are not looking to invest now, but they're kind of like, it's like Game of Thrones. And it's like, okay, well, we're looking at, like in our case, we're looking at 6 computer vision AI companies, and whichever ones are able to survive this season, those are the ones we'll invest in next year, or if it looks good, 16, 18 months out. Because to your point, and for people who don't know, we have a lot of people who are in the startup ecosystem thinking of doing startups, listen to the show, that to Richard's point, investments in 2020, 2021, early 2022, these valuations, some of them were crazy. I know a company that had a 10 location pilot that raised at a $500 million valuation, and with a 10 location pilot. And, it's crazy. We're a production level company in computer vision. So our largest deployment is 1,000 locations. And if we were raising in that environment, our first raise would have been at like $1 billion or something silly, right? So you have a lot of VCs, their portfolios are down because these companies are all doing down rounds for the average person who doesn't understand this stuff. Let me ask you, what is for you because this is raw and real entrepreneurship. I mean, this is not your first rodeo, but what is for you, I guess, the toughest thing about going through the fundraising process personally?
I mean, I think everyone, even if you're pre-seasoned, doesn't like rejection, right? And doesn't like, smart people take a look at your business and say, I don't like it, right? I think that's the hardest part. I mean, but I actually think the hardest part is not over rotating on that feedback. Because I think it's very, I think earlier in my career, when some VC would tell me something, I'd be like, oh crap, I better go do something about that. And now I think, okay, it's interesting signal. This is their perspective on this. Like, I should go invest. I can investigate that. Like, should we do that? Whatnot. But oftentimes I feel like, no, like they just don't understand this business, right? And it's hard to sometimes explain businesses in 30 minutes or less, right? Which is often what you're getting, right? If you go a couple rounds, sure, you spend 2 hours together, but you spent, 3 years on this business. Like there's generally doing it, right? There's a lot of nuance and stuff like that. So, I think a lot of times it's, I think I look back and say like, oh, I didn't communicate this well. There's probably something I want to communicate, but that doesn't mean I should over rotate on what came out of the other end. So that's what I think is one of the most challenging things. There's a lot of people that I think optimize their business for fundraising. And I think this has happened a lot in a couple of recent years. I've been around long enough that I remember that era, right? That Airbnb came from and whatnot. And it was very much just people were just building things because they wanted it to exist. And then it starts working and then they go get funding. And I think more recently, you got all these people that were like optimizing for building a funded startup, right? And, how quickly can you get to $1 million? And that was like, oh, if you get to $1 million in 3 months or 6 months, like you can go raise. I mean, there's someone I think that got to $1 million in like 6 months. They raised $30 million at like a couple $100 million valuation, and then they flat revenue the next year, right? Because there's no business. Again, it's like cargo culting. It was just purely like, oh, what are the boxes the investors want you to check? Not how do I build a good business from first principles around a problem space that I know well. So I think the hardest thing about the fundraising process is not letting these little rejections get to you, and don't let them rattle you and shake you off of the core hypotheses that you've spent years validating, right?
That's beautiful and so wise too, because again, you've gone through YC a couple of times. You're in San Francisco, the heartbeat of it. You see it. You've seen founders soar. You've seen them flail. You know how the game is played, and it is a lot of times, to your point, it's like window dressing. It's like buying a fixer-upper and staging it. And like, how do we want it to be staged? How do you handle stress personally? Because as entrepreneurs, we work longer hours. There was a study that was published in Forbes, and it illustrated that the average startup founder works, over 60 hours a week, where the average employee, we hear quiet quitting is maybe working, 30, 35 hours a week. How do you manage stress?
I think it's a perspective thing for me. I look at working on my startup as like playing my favorite video game.
Ooh.
And I actually think it's kind of funny. I actually think that like your second startup is actually playing an old video game for the first time. So I don't know how many of your listeners ever played Minecraft, but Minecraft is this game, you get dropped into it. You have no idea what to do. There's no instructions. And I remember the first time I played it, it took me like half an hour to figure out. You have to punch a tree to get some wood to then get a torch. Like, right. That's your first startup. Your first startup is like, you're dropped in this game. Everything is open-ended. You're not told what to do. You see someone else's castle on the hill and you're like, I think I want to build that, but I'm not sure how. The second time you've done it, or the third time you've done it, it's like, oh, you dropped me into Minecraft within 10 minutes. I've got the castle on the hill myself. I've got a factory, like all these things are happening because you've taken all these things that are like open-ended questions, and actually find out most questions in your startup are actually, once you get to know it, it's an a la carte menu, right? Like marketing is not an open-ended question. It's, okay, which of these 8 channels are you going to do? You're not going to do 8. You're going to do like 1, maybe 2, right? To get started. And so all that to say is like, I have this mindset about my startup, which is like, it's like playing a video game. It's like, I don't know about you, but I can play video games for a long time, like very gratifying. Just, I can do it over and over. I'm kind of like a dog. I can play fetch for hours, but I feel like with the startup, I'm excited to get back to it. So yeah, maybe I work 80 hours a week. It doesn't feel like work, because it feels like, oh man, I was playing tennis, and the whole time I was thinking about like, oh, I really want to tweak this part of polish this part of our stone of this thing that we're building, right? Like, oh, we should tweak that messaging. Oh, I've got an idea for fixing this feature. And I think that mindset means it's not stressful. It's just exciting, right? I guess it is a form of stress technically, but my relationship was so much different than, oh my gosh, I have a crushing load of things to do. When I am, that's like the positive thing. There are moments when it's like, oh, I have too many things coming inbound to me. My backlog is getting really high. How do I deal with it, right? And I think there you have to develop some discipline around, when you find those moments, you got to take a step back and figure out a way to like get yourself out of that hole, like one bit at a time, and not get overwhelmed by the amount of things, and be very honest with people, like cut the shit in half and get rid of, the stuff that doesn't matter. Right.
And what's your strategy for that? So like, a bunch of stuff coming at you at once. And there was a study done in University of Florida on decision fatigue, and specifically times of day for certain people. Some people are great early in the morning, some people are great later at night, but we all have a part of our day where we have decision fatigue, and where it is a lot harder to make the right decisions. So let's say, Richard, you have things coming at you. There's, maybe some unexpected things that are being thrown at you. What is something that is your go-to that can instantly reset you? Because there are so many people listening that we can't afford as entrepreneurs to be out of the game for 2 weeks and have a pity party. We can't afford for 2 hours. Honestly, we have to be in the game all the time, to your point. So what is your go-to that resets you super quickly?
So I actually find the biggest stress is actually the tension between maker and manager, where you've got a lot of stuff you have to do yourself. You're almost an IC, right? I've got to send an email, write that document, come with a design, whatever. And then the manager, like, I need to review this thing. I got to answer questions from my team. I got to review emails from clients, that sort of thing. And I find the real tension is when I've got these, usually what happens is the lots of little things overwhelm the important thing that takes more time. Oh, I need to sit down and spend 4 hours working on this thing. But I never get to it because I got all these little things coming at me, and it's just easy. I feel like I gotta bat them down. And now I'm getting stressed out that this important thing's never getting done. And now I get behind. Now I don't even want to touch it. So I think finding a way to manage the tension between the need to be maker and manager. And the way I just do, I think I'm lucky in that I'm a night person, and most of my team is East Coast. And so I spend most of the morning. So like from when I wake up to about 2, 3 o'clock, I have no expectation I'm going to get anything done. Like, I'm not going to try to do any of my maker projects. I'm only going to have a high SLA, high response time on anything anyone needs from me. And so I play tennis all day. I knock the ball back over the net, right? Whether it's a decision, whether it's email, whatnot. And then I know that I carve out the afternoon and the evening for, okay, let me sit down. Like, what are my top projects? Let me resort them every night and be like, great, I'm going to get to these two, because these are now the most important ones. And so I think I got really frustrated when I felt like there was a tension, and I was trying to interleave the two things, trying to do the maker work in the middle of management. And now I'm getting frustrated because I'm getting interrupted and whatnot. And just had an expectation of like, I'm going to be interrupted for the next 4 hours. And that's what I'm here for. And I'll have time to do the other stuff later.
That's fantastic. I love that. And how self-aware you are, Richard, to be able to know that. A lot of people don't. Like, this is when I'm my most creative and least likely to get interrupted. This is when I'm in decision-making mode, and I'm going to make 1,000 decisions in a very short period of time. Right. And to know that about yourself. It's funny you mentioned the East Coast. So I was on the East Coast for the 3 weeks. I just got back, and it was great because a lot of our team is on the West Coast. So my go-to is like, as long, even if I go for like a 20-minute run, just clear my head. I love running in the cities I'm in. And just to be able to get all that stuff done. And for me, do my creative work before they were up and going and needed decisions was like the best. So
sometimes times with offsets are really magical, right? I've also had times where I've been traveling in like Asia and it's like, oh, I'm like really out of phase with my team. But that means I only get one batch of emails to go through per day. I don't get any more. Once I answer all those emails, they're not coming back because everyone's asleep. And there's just something kind of magical about something. Sometimes just shifting time zones in a way gives you more perspective on, oh, wow, okay, I live it every day because I'm in sync with all my team. But if I get 4 hours out of phase of them, oh, I do notice now I've cleared up this thing. Well, I can only just clear up those 3 hours that I got from the time zone shift when I go home. Like, imagine how productive I'd be.
absolutely. And sometimes to that point too, like you can be over available for your team and then they become codependent. And so when you're not as available, they're forced to create and innovate. How big is your team at Fathom now?
We're pretty small, pretty nimble, about 16 people.
16 people. Wow. That is. And the, as a CEO, you wear many hats. I'm so curious about this. So now where you're at in your career, is there ever any time that something, comes out of your mouth that you think like 20 years ago, like, I can't even believe that I have this area of competency. Is that the case? And if so, what is that?
I think as time goes on, you get better at just making decisions faster, right? Because you've shifted from, I have to judge every decision from first principles to, I have like now a lot of pattern matching that I can do. It's also your weakness, right? It's also why sometimes people get stuck in ruts of thinking, right? Because you're just so used to pattern matching. But I think, I think someone once said, like, I'm going to butcher this, but like, there are, good fast decisions and good slow decisions, but there's no such thing as a good, there's a fast bad decision, fast good decision, but there's no decision that you can do slowly that you really want, right? Like, just, you could be wrong, but just be quick with your decision making, and then you'll get some feedback after that, right? Like that it was wrong, right? Like most decisions you make are actually pretty low consequence, and generally pretty reversible. So it's more important that you make the decision quickly than you agonize over it, right? Because that'll eat up your time, right? And that's the thing, just keep moving. You can always change it later, really.
Yeah, that's huge. The it's funny when I look at now for me in AI, right? And AI is this, it's like saying crypto. It's so general and there's a lot of lack of understanding.
But there's real use cases in AI.
True. And AI isn't something that just appeared this year. I mean, people have been using Siri and Alexa and, search and all sorts of things. They, whatever. But it's interesting that I look in my career now and as a startup co-founder in the space of AI, and sometimes I'll be explaining like GPUs or whatever, and why NVIDIA stock is soaring. And I'm like, wait a minute, when did that conscious competency come about? But like by osmosis, right? It's funny how you learn. For Fathom, everyone loves an origin story. So you already, you do 2 companies and then you see a problem. How did you get the funding for the first beta version? And that's the first part of my question. The second part of my question, because everyone, like, who doesn't have a million great ideas, but it's the execution that makes the difference. And how did you take that beta and find your first early users?
Sure. Yeah. I think the thing that shifted a lot in my career, I used to just go, this is a cool thing, I want to build it, and just start building it, right? Because I'm kind of a builder, to shifting to like, what's a unique hypothesis that I have about this business, and like, what does it mean? And I think there's a big difference between entrepreneurs that are hypothesis driven versus those that are not. And again, going back to these conversations with like VCs, if your business is built on a couple core hypotheses that you've now either validated or in the process of validating, it gives you this bedrock that's like, okay, you may not like the way I've done this, but do you disagree with this core hypothesis, right? And for us, the core hypothesis was transcription cost is going to zero. And, early 2020, I was using Zoom a lot, actually my last company. And I think I did like, I don't know, 200 Zoom calls or something in the first like 4 weeks. So a lot of customer research. And I just was like, oh my gosh, taking notes and trying to synthesize them afterwards and trying to have them carry the same gravitas that the initial conversation had to other people that weren't there. This thing's a nightmare. It's stressing me out. And that's where the idea for Fathom came from. And so historically, I just built it. But my hypothesis, there's two. One was, again, transcription cost is going to zero. And because at the time, it cost us about $2 an hour. It was about 85% of the cost of running this business. But I was like, it's going to go to zero. And when it goes to zero, it means you can build this, you can give this product away for free. And if you can give this product away for free, it can be viral. Because you can't really have viral products if you charge money, mostly because it's like too much friction. But if you get it away for free, it's going to be in your meetings recording, and people are going to be like, what's this thing in the meeting? Oh, it's my Fathom bot, it's recording. So that was our core hypothesis, and said, like, if we're confident over time, we can get the infrastructure costs down to afford it. And we can be the first and only people to give this product away for free. Because we weren't the first ones to do it, but the first ones to make it really easy and give away for free. And so that was kind of our core hypothesis. And I think, with that, I was able to basically started from day one with some of my top engineers from my last company. And this is, I think, the advantage of being second time, right? The second or third time founder looks so much different than the first time, right? The first time I did this, I had to beg, borrow, and steal people to do engineering work with me. Thankfully, I could do my own engineering work. So that's part of it. This time around, I started on third base, right? I've got 4 great engineers. I could go to my network and say, I've got this really interesting hypothesis. We've got this core product. Check it out. It was like a barely functional alpha, and I was able to go to my network and raise the first $500K we needed just to get started. The downside to this model is, I've got 4 engineers that have engineer salaries on day one, so I have to raise money at the gate, right? Yeah. Versus my previous company, I think we burned 100K over the first 18 months. We burned 100K in the first 3 months of this new one, right? But I think you just play to your strengths. I've got a network enough to raise money and whatnot. So that's how we got the first initial funding for it. And then in terms of first initial users, also in network, just went to everyone on LinkedIn, like, hey, I got this product. Do you want to try it? And I think I went back and looked at the stats at it took us about 800 people or so signing up for the product to get 50 people that used it regularly. And because we kept bringing in cohorts of people, I'd bring in 50 people, let them try it. There'd be enough bugs in it. It's kind of it's in a unique product where it's if it doesn't work perfectly, it doesn't work at all, right? It needs to join your meeting seamlessly every time, not drop anything, yada, yada. And what we found is I'd bring in cohorts of people. And it's we lost everyone's cohort because everyone hit this bug or hit one of these. Oh, great. Let's fix it. All right, new cohort. And, at one point we got 50 people that were using it day in, day out. And they were like, okay, great. We're on to the next phase, right? We finally got some level of stickiness. We've solved the core problem, but it took us hundreds of people to get to that point.
And what was the time period?
That took about, we started the company in the fall, and I think it took about 8 months to get to that point where we had 8-9 months where we had that group of 50 using it regularly.
And I love your patience because let's all admit, as founders and co-founders, we have, there's this whole joke, we have ADD and that, we're impatient and results driven and things like that. But the fact that you were this willingness to say, we need the right consistent users, not just the one-off, this is so great. So let me ask you this. What is the number one piece of positive feedback your user base gives you about how this product is impacting them?
I think what I notice, and I think it's really important, it's an emotional response. People are just like, I can't imagine life without Fathom. I'm so less stressed out than I was before on these calls. And I think that's the other thing. And when I go to build a product now, sure, there's features and there's jobs to be done and things you're doing, but I think of what is the emotional problem we're solving for the user? And what is the emotional response we expect to see, right? People are in meetings all day long. And especially if you're in sales or a consultant, they all sound the same. You get really stressed out that, oh my gosh, I forgot something important that Susan said. I can't get Susan back on the line. I'm going to look like an idiot. My boss is there's a lot of anxiety around, a lot of stress of these one-to-one calls that people are on. And so I think we just found people are just occasionally I zone out in the middle of a meeting. That's fine. I can go back and watch the recording. I've got the summary. I've got the notes. So, but yeah, I think back to your point about the patience, I'm a big fan of doing the core things sequentially. So I was like, we don't need to worry about onboarding. We don't need to worry about growth. We don't need to worry about virality if we don't have retention. So we're going to first build a product that people love. And we're going to know they love it because they use it day in, day out, but they also tell us they love it. It has to be both. Can't just, yeah, you need the qualitative and the quantitative. And then once we've done that, then we're going to focus on how do we onboard people better. We're not even, our onboarding is going to be terrible until well, that's fine. We're going to manually onboard people. Once we got a good retention piece, now we're going to make our onboarding really good. We're going to make it really easy to sign up. And we're going to instrument that funnel. Once we get that working, now we're going to worry about virality. Okay, great. Now we've got this thing that just grows. Now we're going to worry about monetization. And so we could, even for a B2B product, we took kind of a more of a consumer playbook where it's like we deferred monetization until we figured out, cool, we've got this core product that people love and use. Because I don't want to monetize early, because what if we never figure out the growth and virality? Now we've got a very small business that we don't know how to grow. So let's solve the hard parts first. Hard parts retention, hard parts growth. You got a product people are using every day and love. There's always a way to monetize it, right?
That is so genius, Richard. And that wisdom that comes from your experience, because so many people will go to monetization too early and they don't have a product, to your point, that people are going to love. They're going to use day in, day out. And I was asked by an investor that I thought it was a great question. She's like, AI is not cheap to build. I said, it is not cheap to build. And, I've spoken to VCs who don't understand that, and that's okay. They're not the right VC. To build a product that, B2B, that the enterprise users for our product are going to want to love, are going to want to bring alongside as part of a team, that it's the same thing. And that's what we spent the last 5 years doing. And it's not easy, because going back to the VC thing is like, okay, monetization. It's like, okay, but can't monetize a piece of garbage.
Yep.
So as we wrap up, I'm going to rapid fire you questions, since you like, you like games. So we're going to go fast. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Do you have a particular book that has like really blown your mind that you would say, yes, every entrepreneur needs to read this?
I really like The Score Takes Care of Itself, which is a book by Bill Walsh, the old 49ers coach. Because it speaks to my methodology. It's like, do the little things right, and don't worry about, I don't really worry about our revenue. I worry about all the little things that lead to us getting revenue.
Love it. I also love a good football reference. All right. Next question. Do you have a podcast you listen to? Do you have?
I mean, this is probably a lot of us listen to it. I listen to All In podcast a lot. I think those guys are great. When they get out of the lane of entrepreneurship, a little questionable. Their geopolitics, but their entrepreneurship stuff is spot on. Nice.
What is the strangest thing a VC has ever said to you?
Oh gosh. I had one recently that said, like, have you thought about doing this? He said, probably a terrible idea for your business, but it's going to be great for your Series A narrative. It's like, at least it's honest, but it's pretty funny.
Okay. All right. Last and final question. It's your perfect day off. And yes, you're thinking about your business, but you're not in your business. Where are you in the world and what are you doing?
I'm on top of a mountain with my skis on, and I've got my AirPods in, and I've got some friends behind me because I'm faster than skiing. And so that's, because I want to ski with people that are slower than me. Just ski. Yeah, I ski nomaded a lot during COVID, and it was fantastic. Actually, it was a great break from work, because it's the only thing that takes a lot to get my brain out of work, and flying down a mountain at 50 will do it.
Well, I'll high five you on that, brother. We ski Telluride every year, and I freaking love it. Like, it's just, I want to be up there, like, and with my helmet on, it's like I'm just like any other person out there, and it is freaking fabulous. So, Richard, I want to commend you, and I think what you've done is incredible. I love that, how resilient you are, the season of no, and also to all of the salient pieces that you gave for everyone in this season of raising money, because you're going to have to talk to more people. The VCs want to know more before they even go to due diligence or go to term. And it just is what it is. But for those of us who are warriors and survivors, we're going to come out the other side and be the household names that everyone will know in the next 3 to 5 years.
The last thing I'd say on that is I think your instinct is right. I think the worst thing that's happened to startups in the last couple of years was this over focus on MVP. And everyone wants to build a crappy first product and they want to get to $1 million in 3 months. The good companies took a long time. The good company, it's easy to not care what the VC says because I get emails every day from people saying this product has changed my life and my business. And I think that is what I tell everyone to focus on. Build a great product, build customers that love it like you and I have. And then it'll give you the strong like bedrock of conviction that you can weather any season of no that comes up ahead.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Richard, thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
You rock. I'm excited to use Fathom. It is going to change my life, and I will be one of your testimonial emails. So
Awesome.
with that, everyone, if you love the show, give Richard and I a shout out on social. We'd love a 5-star review. Share the show with friends. Send your comments in. I read every single one personally. And with that, God bless. Go rock your day. And I will see you in the next episode. Are you currently an employee looking to start your own business? Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and you're just not sure where to start. Well, my course, Employee to Entrepreneur, combines my decades of experience as an entrepreneur with proven methods, techniques, and skills to help you take that leap and start your own business. This course is self-paced, learn on demand, and comes with an incredible workbook. And that will allow you to go through this content piece by piece by piece, absorb it, take action, and then go on to the next module. So check out my course on susansly.com, Employee to Entrepreneur.